Hello, I'm Zen Master Sebastian Rizzon. Today I'm going to be being interviewed by Nadia, one of the Zen Art Center community members, and she's just going to be asking me whatever is on her mind around the topic of Zen. So yeah, if you have any questions for future Q&As, drop them in the comments and we'll try to include them in future interviews.
All right.
So with that said, do you have any questions?
As we're getting closer to Thanksgiving, and obviously the theme around Thanksgiving is gratitude and being thankful. And the first question I have is, what's the perspective of Zen on gratitude, and is it a practice? Is it like in the context of Zen? Is it something that needs to be practiced?
I think maybe in the purest form of Zen, there is an argument to be made that you should just be focusing on clearing things out. But I also, in my personal practice and the practice I was taught from my teacher, gratitude played an important role in that.
And I think you hit like the nails on the head with what I'm coming up with as questions isn't gratitude in itself a form of attachment?
Yeah, and that's why I think in like in the purest form of Zen practice, you are going to be in your meditation and in your moment by moment experience, you're not going to be thinking about gratitude because that's something you might be experiencing something similar to it. But for me, I do feel like it gives context to my life to understand the things that I have to be thankful for. And it was part of the practice that my teacher taught me. And it's more of this is going to sound a little foreign to some people when I say it, but it's a rule of nature. And it's one of the rules you have to learn how to navigate the rules. Like if you want to live, you have to eat. If you want to live, you have to breathe. I believe a natural rule of nature is when you receive something, you should say thank you. And it's a form of reciprocity. It's a form of acknowledging give and take. And for me, I think that practice helps affirm that and helps and is an acknowledgement of that rule of nature that there's give and take in everything. So when you take something, you say thank you. And it makes when someone gives you something, you say thank you, and then they like you better, and that creates harmony in your relationship. I believe that rule extends into nature itself.
In what sense?
In that nature is always giving, and therefore we should always be thankful for receiving.
I mean, in my own practice, being mindful of what I am grateful for, as said, gives context. But I feel like most importantly, give humility, or I live more in a more humble way, and I am humble with things that come and things that go, and even the food I eat, because it comes from another source, which usually have given, even if it's a plant, have given its life for my life. So even eating blueberries or tomatoes or cucumber, like even in that simple fact, a life is taken for your own life. And I feel like, I don't know if I'm like stretching it or, it's too much, but just being mindful of that exchange helps me live with more humility.
Yeah, and I think I think that humility is a important part to progression. You have to be aware of what the exchange is that's happening all around you. I might choose to use different words, and that's why I think I'm having a little bit of a hard time responding to what you're saying. But I think acknowledging the exchange that's going on around you is part of an awareness of everything, and it's part of a broader form of awareness and an acknowledgement of what's happening around you. And humility can be an important part of learning, in that you always have to acknowledge that there are things you know and there are things you don't know. And the things you don't know are much more a vast portion of the universe than what you know. And so in order to understand the truth, you have to keep acknowledging everything you don't know. And if you think you know everything, that's your ego speaking up, and that means you need to let go of that, because it's not true.
So, circling back to the ego in its relationship with gratitude, do you think that, or would you say that cultivating gratitude helps calm the ego down and like having it less this is me and this is mine, and you know?
Yeah, I think it could have that effect, and that might be one of the important aspects of acknowledging that exchange is that it's, if you're thankful for something, it means you've received something that you didn't have before, perhaps, or you've received some sort of assistance that you needed. And that in itself is an acknowledgement that it's not all your own individual efforts. You're part of something bigger. You're part of a circle of friends. You're part of a group of workers. You're part of a larger community. You're part of a world, and you're part of a universe. And those things are always contributing to your life. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that. And I think gratitude is that acknowledgement.
So now when you think about it, I mean, we're born with like nothing, not even clothes, like nothing. And then we just we need other people, we need the planets, we need earth, we need air, we need so many things to survive and to grow. And so in a way, like everything is a plus, because everything is a plus. Like there's nothing that's taken from us. We're just taking from other things around us.
Yeah, and that is you could say a debt of gratitude, or a debt of karma that you have to, if you want things to balance out, you have to give back. And that's one of the reasons on the flip side of gratitude is something being compassionate. And that's a key element to Zen practice and Buddhist practice, is acting with compassion, helping other people to alleviate their suffering.
So what's the gratitude, like the link between gratitude and compassion first? Because you said it's on the flip of it is compassion, but compassion to me is like a different topic or way of living altogether.
Well, compassion is, you were saying you have all these things that are pluses, that are things you need to be thankful for. Well, where did those come from? It came from someone helping you, someone giving it to you, or the universe providing for you. All of these factors in the universe coming together to produce your life. I mean, compassion is often something we say only humans can do, but I feel like it's another force of nature. Like something is always giving to us, and therefore we should use that same force with our bodies and our vessels to act with compassion to the world and to the people around us.
So what does it mean, compassion?
So it's another one of these rules of nature. Like I was saying, gratitude is a rule of nature. Compassion is a rule of nature.
I see.
And they have the same effect on our reality as all of these physical laws and theories. If you think about how they work in your life, if you really think about it, they probably have more effect on your life, or as much effect on your life as the rules of gravity.
So, yeah, I mean, yes, I can see that, but I want you to, if you can, elaborate a little bit more about how does gratitude, and then we'll talk about compassion later, but how is that having more effects on your life than gravity, or as much effects as gravity on your life? What's the tangible effect of gratitude in your life?
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying about creating more harmony. If someone gives you something and you say thank you, it makes more harmony in your life. The more thankful you are for the things you receive, the more likely you are to receive more things in the future. It's just it's a rule in our society.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to explain. I think it's actually goes far deeper than that throughout the universe.
I see.
And I also just want to acknowledge that does require a different form of thinking than we're used to in our society. But what is the harm in believing that?
What is the harm in believing what? Believing
that it extends into the universe. Like if you say, I'm thankful for the sun shining today.
Yeah. Well, we should be thankful for the sun shining, because otherwise, I think the planet dies in 7 days or something like that, 3 weeks maybe.
So that's it. I mean, I could be, I think a lot of people could be out there saying I'm full of it, but what if I'm right? You definitely want to be thanking that sun.
Yeah, I do think that, like, I do feel more than think. I do feel that the support is kind of nature of the universe, that the universe is support. Like somehow the trees are, when the fruit is ripe and it falls on the ground, someone like a squirrel is gonna go and eat it, and there is like this kind of support without any transaction, because the tree is just there making fruits and the squirrel is just there eating fruits, and there is no like money exchange, there's no like agreement between the tree and the squirrel, and it just happens to be that way.
Yeah, but I mean, you can, and I think that's kind of not to, I understand what you're saying, but I think if you draw the line there and say it's not an equal exchange, I think that's where a lot of people would logically draw the line. And I think that's where a lot of the mistakes in the way we think about the universe happen. Because I can easily point out to you in that situation that no, the squirrels actually, they go and they poop around the base of the tree, and that creates fertilizer for the tree. So it is not like they're giving back, or for another plant perhaps, or something like that. But because we have these ways these arbitrary places we just decide to draw lines, there's a lot of things happening that we're not aware of like that. That's an easy one I think I can point out, and you can acknowledge that that really does happen to some extent. But that is happening all across the boards, all around the universe. And we are drawing these lines which interfere with us seeing that.
I see. Okay. So did we answer the question of like how gratitude changes tangible effects of living with gratitude on one's life? And you mentioned it gets you more things, and once you're grateful for something, then you get something else. But is there anything more to it? Like, at least I feel.
I mean, I think it also changes. It changes your own mindset, and this will lead into the other thing you asked about. If you're thankful for everything you have, and grateful for having it, it makes you want to continue that chain and perhaps give something yourself, give something of yourself to something else that needs it, to someone else that needs it. And so that's the chain of cause and effect. It's compassion creates gratitude, and gratitude creates more compassion. And these are the things that create more harmony in the world. And harmony in the world means it's a better place to live. I'm not talking about some mystical idea. I'm just talking about it's the oil and grease in the gears of life. It makes everything flow more smoothly when it operates like that.
Okay.
The machine is singing rather than like going and all the gears are grinding.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, like, as you're talking about this, I'm just wondering in the effect in the thought process, living with gratitude, does it make you have less thoughts? And hence help in a way to empty the mind rather than living with no gratitude or with entitlement and say, oh, my life sucks because I don't have this and that. And, and you have these thoughts. Does the fact that living with gratitude helps clear the mind because you have less thoughts?
No, I think you still have to clear your mind. It's easier to do when you're living in a harmonious situation. And it's easier to clear your mind when you're living in a harmonious world versus a chaotic world. And if you're constantly struggling versus like things being easy, it's much more easy to clear your mind. I think you could say that out of experience. From a teaching standpoint, I don't want to overemphasize some of this stuff because I think the important thing is really, like I said, it's as simple as meditating and clearing your mind. And then all of these things come naturally. You start to understand the rules of the world and the rules of the universe, and you understand how to maneuver and position yourself in a way that creates a more harmonious situation. So I think all of these things come out of that. It's kind of like I was saying with breathing. You can breathe to control your body, or you can learn to meditate and it will control your breathing. It can work both ways, but I think in teaching, it's helpful to present a narrative and something people can understand. And most of these things are, I'm explaining them using metaphors, which are obviously not real, but they're trying to evoke a feeling within you that inspires you to try these things, to try to create more harmony. And if you're understanding and nodding your head, then perhaps you'll be more inclined to try some of these other things I'm suggesting. So I think that narrative within yourself can be helpful, to getting through some of the parts of life where it is challenging and things aren't working out, because these times are going to come no matter how much you're meditating. You're going to reach points where things are difficult. And if you have a narrative and a map that you're following in your own mind, that can help you as a reminder, oh, these are the things I can do to bring that harmony back around. And I really believe in these things 100% because I've experienced them and they've worked for me. But there's no way I can convince you or prove these things with, a scientific test. But I think most people, when I talk to them, they understand what I'm saying and that there's a truth within it.
Okay. So now to compassion. What is compassion?
Compassion is helping other people. That's the most simple way I can state it. Helping to, and when I say helping, it's helping to alleviate suffering.
So compassion is helping to alleviate suffering. And how do you do that? Because if I might, like, how can you even, I feel like it's a little, like it's, how can you even help someone alleviate their suffering? Like it's so, how would you even know where to, not where to begin, but how it makes, I guess what I'm trying to say is you're going to have to make an assumption that one, they're suffering, that two, you can help, that three, you know what they're suffering about, you know. And those are a lot of assumptions. And sometimes wanting to alleviate some suffering will create more suffering, or will like just go wrong.
Yeah, well, I think you said a few things there. How do you know if someone is suffering? I mean, suffering is a part of life. Everyone at some point in their life suffers. It's a fact of life.
But how would you
It's
know?
actually the only part of life that is guaranteed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that is directly from, Buddha's teachings. So that how do you help, right? What were the parts of your questions?
Yeah, so the first part is, okay, everybody suffers. Great. How would you know what they're suffering about?
Well, there can be many explanations for why people are suffering at any given time. But the root of the suffering is all of the same. It's your karma. It's your thinking. It's this world we've created in our mind. And the only way to cut through that is to meditate and stop your thinking, cut your thinking, clear your mind. And that is the only way to truly release yourself from suffering. I mean, there's things you can do. You could go get a massage, but that's in a temporary thing.
Is that being compassionate with yourself to get yourself a massage?
I mean, it could be. I'm not going to judge someone for doing that. I'm just saying that is not the ultimate way to alleviate and gain complete freedom from suffering. Because if you understand and experience the world in the way I'm explaining, with none of these conceptual restraints, then at any given moment, no matter what your body is experiencing, your mind can be in heaven.
But now we're talking about compassion and alleviating someone else's suffering. I mean, compassion can also be for yourself, but the question I had of how do you know what the other person is suffering? And I'm going to give an example. For example, let's say there is a friend, and the friend hates her body and she's suffering, her self-image, and she's suffering low confidence and everything. How, let's assume that at least I am, or okay, I'm continuing this same example. This is the friend. She hates herself, hates how she looks. She suffers low self-confidence, and hence she acts with almost the other way around, overcompensating for her low confidence and being like this arrogant person. And then you see an arrogant person, you're like, okay, this person is suffering because everybody's suffering, and being arrogant, definitely suffering. But how do you even know from there, I want to act with compassion to that person? I'm not going to tell her, hey, let's go sit and meditate. Or maybe that's the solution.
I mean, that's the only solution I'm going to probably offer in the most general sense. But yeah, not everybody is ready to receive those instructions, or is in a place where saying that to them is going to be helpful. Sometimes you have to understand. You have to understand. You have to reach a point in your own suffering where you start to question the patterns you've developed. Nothing I'm going to say is going to, if someone is truly skeptical of everything I'm saying, nothing I'm going to say today is going to change their mind. But ultimately, they're going to continue to suffer until they change something. And when they want to change, that is when you can help.
So you have to be able to listen to when is the right moment for that person to hear you out.
Exactly. Like there, and I mean, you hear a lot of stories of people having to hit rock bottom, going through with these patterns of behavior that destroy their lives before they find some sort of spiritual savior. I mean, that is as about a common a story as you can find in society. Sometimes, unfortunately, that's what it takes. And that's what it might take for some people. I'm trying to catch people before they, I mean, ideally, people before they reach that level might hear something I'm saying or hear something from another, wise spiritual person that can get them off of that course, or a friend, or it doesn't have to come from some spiritually enlightened person. Sometimes it can come from and I suggest this, if you're feeling like you're really suffering, go see a therapist. They can get you to a base level of feeling good about your situation, feeling better about your situation, where, some of these other lessons that I'm teaching might be more helpful.
So, but if we want to be compassionate with that friend, what can we do? Going back, because this is exactly what I asked before, and then we said maybe meditation, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel that compassion sometimes is not doing anything.
Yeah, sometimes it
Because
is.
people need to fail, sometimes need to hit rock bottom.
Right. And I believe I'm trying to help everyone, but yeah, like I said, not everybody is ready for help. Some people, that is what it's going to take. Nothing you're going to change is going to help them. But what I would suggest is that the way you can remain helpful to these people, first of all, the feeling of compassion, the internal feeling inside of you that makes you want to be compassionate to someone is love. And keep love in your heart. Keep love for that person. Keep the idea very present when you're around them that you want to help them. They might pick up on that energy and then see you as someone they can turn to for help with some of these things. The second thing is patience. So that's something that's very difficult to be when you see someone you care about hurting themselves or causing themselves more suffering. It's hard not to speak up, but sometimes that only makes your relationship worse if they're not in a point where they're receptive to it. So patience is very important. I mean, you don't have to bend your beliefs and do something just to make them happy. Like, that is not necessarily compassion.
Yeah.
But you can be patient in that you're keeping love in your heart. You're remaining a presence present in their lives in a way that doesn't expose you to more suffering, because that's not good for you. But also just being patient with them, realizing that they might need to bottom out, but you don't want that, and you want to help them, and if the opportunity arises, you will help them. And perhaps if you're meditating a lot on your end, you might see a different way of approaching the situation. If your mind is clear, perhaps you have some attachments to, this is the only way I can help them. They need to change their life in this way, that way, and this way. Maybe there's something that will pop into your mind when it's clear that's just like one or two sentences that will change their perspective. There's no way to know, but I think exactly what it will be in this specific situation. But these are the types of techniques that I can generally recommend to people in these types of situations.
And definitely agree with what you were saying. Is sometimes we want to just help someone, and first, helping someone is not necessarily like compassion is wanting to help someone and alleviate their suffering, but But it is a trap too of wanting to help someone so much that you're rushing into taking an action because you just want to help, but you're not like stopping and listening to, is it the right timing, is it the right thing, is it what they need, or is it just me wanting to help because my ego is going to feel better if I do this or if I do that, or and I think it's really a trap. And I think what you said of maybe the best thing we can do for that person is for us to meditate, because then we'll have the clarity and we'll have the ability to listen to when is it the right time and what is the right thing to say or action to take. And sometimes no action is the best action and the way to help.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, I know all kinds of people can watch this video online. They can be in all different states of life. For some people, meditation is a great solution. But if it's causing you more distress, I mean, that might be a sign that you need to talk to someone, that you need to find someone you trust to talk to. You need to see a therapist or a professional who can help you attain a stronger base so that, you know, that the meditation works for you. I think if you close your eyes and you just keep spinning yourself deeper and deeper, and it's not working in a way that's helping your mind become more clear, there might be some work you need to do ahead of time for this stuff to really work. I'm definitely not qualified to give that kind of general information over YouTube, but I think it's worthwhile noting for people that there are situations where sitting and meditating doesn't always help. But I think if you're in a generally stable position in your life, I think that's what can bring you to the next level of understanding of truth. But I don't think it's not a prescription for everybody at every time.
Yeah.
I think learning how to focus on what you're doing, learning how to clear your mind, I think those are generally good advice for people. And it's generally what I'm teaching in my classes. But if someone comes to me and they're like, I'm thinking of hurting myself, I'm not going to say go meditate. I'm going to say, let's get you to someone who can help you sort your feelings out and who is like trained to do this. And I'll of course give them any helpful advice I might have, but that is going to be the primary advice I have for them. So I think it's important to keep everything in the right context with what we're talking about.
All right. Well, thank you very much for answering my questions. I have a bunch of other questions maybe for another episode. But yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for coming up with such thought-provoking questions. And hopefully it's helpful to some of the people watching here. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. Like I said, if you have any other questions you want us to discuss in future episodes, drop them in the comments and we'll try to get them into our next discussion. I also will try to do some live streams in the future where you can drop your questions in the chat. So stay tuned for all of that. And thank you for joining us. Good luck to you on all of your journeys.